We discussed in part 1 of my talk on how thought and memories are produced. In this talk, part 2, we will discuss how thought is transmitted from one being to another, that is its transmission and receipt, and finally how it interacts with matter. Reiterating again. Almost all of us, sometime or the other in our life, have gone through the experience of feeling that somebody is following or watching us. Whether it is a human being or an animal, it makes us turn our neck to see what it is and investigate. Similarly, there have been innumerable instances where people and animals have sensed danger much before it strikes them. What is the nature of the signal that tells our mind that somebody is watching us or there is a lurking danger, and how is that signal generated and sent from the pursuer's brain and received by us? Part A. Similarly, throughout the history of human civilization, there have been many instances where so-called miracles have been performed. These have included levitation, production of material things from thin air, physical healing, etc. The nature of these miracles is the same, irrespective of religion and different civilizations. Some of their accounts have been exaggerated and found fraudulent, but a considerable body of data shows remarkable consistency in their nature and reporting, though the producers of such miracles always claimed that God or higher forces and entities use them as medium. However, I feel that these events have taken place because of the interaction of human thought with gravity and material surroundings. After all, a thought produced by the physical brain must be physical in nature and hence governed by certain scientific laws. Thus, a curiosity arose about which laws of science operate to make these things happen. This essay, Part B, is my humble attempt in trying to understand them. A. Thought transmission. Leaky thought. We also discussed in Part 1 that thought is a hologram. Its generation and validation of the outside world through the signals received from our senses gives us a sense of reality. Besides, its generation and evaluation of possibilities is an internal churning process of the brain which makes us creative and gives us a sense of humanness. When we can resolve some of the memory knots through the internal churning, then it also gives us a sense of well-being and happiness. Nevertheless, a deep thought which is a result of tremendous concentration for a long time is also a leaky thought. It not only helps us evaluate various scenarios but is also automatically transmitted and has the effect on others' mind who are in the vicinity of deep thinker. This results in mind-bending experience, or the sense of danger, that some people feel when they are in the presence of such beings. These thoughts could bring in the feelings of both peace and happiness, or evil intentions depending upon the personality and mental makeup of the sender. Presence of a being. Very often people have felt a sense of well-being and happiness just being in the presence of an enlightened human being. These beings continuously produce a thought of high quality which is leaking from their brain and affects anybody who encounters it. Similarly, there are other human beings who are evil and continuously think ill of society and how to harm others. These evil thoughts also affect people and have been the cause of a lot of misery in the world. Some examples of this powerful brain interaction have been reported by UFO abductees. Most abductees felt very frightened when they encountered alien beings. They felt as if their whole life was sucked out of them. Such encounters also wiped out all the memories of the event in the abductees. Patanjali has alluded to such a process in his Yoga Sutras. A yogi not only can read the mind of others but can also take command of his/her mind and body. On terrestrial level, these leaky thoughts from a powerful brain also create an aura, either good or bad, around the person and is felt by everybody who encounters him/her. At present, this aura and thought cannot be transmitted by any known technological means like phones, video, internet, etc. The day we will be able to project or transmit them to large distances through our technology will be the day when man-machine interface will vanish. Presently, a powerful thought can only be transmitted by human brains. I conjecture that it can also be transmitted over long distances. And we will explore it in this essay. Nevertheless, in order to feel the presence or aura, one's mind should also be sensitive to the feelings. A person devoid of any sensitivity cannot feel a presence. Mind is both a receiver and a broadcaster of strong thoughts, and a sensitive mind is able to receive them and feel the presence of the being. Sometimes, a sensitive mind is a curse because it can easily get distracted by any strong thought it perceives. It requires a great willpower to ward off influences from a powerful mind. We also sometimes hype ourselves into a state of awe in the presence of a well-known personality and do not see the flaws in that person. This hype is however sensed by these personalities, and they get an added boost to their energy levels. Besides, it also helps them to control their followers. Many orators and public figures have experienced and commented on this. However, a genuine feeling of warmth, love, kindness and humility can only be felt when in the presence of a great soul. Thus, if all of us follow our basic gut feelings and meet such souls, then we should be thankful for our luck. Such people's friendship should be cultivated and cherished. I think this is also a good way to judge a person's greatness. One can create a benevolent presence by developing a calm mind. Calmness of mind comes from internal security, which is an outcome of spirituality. A person who is at peace with himself/herself can radiate a tremendous calmness and help spread it. There have been many instances where people have felt this calmness in the presence of great souls like Mahatma Gandhi, Vivekananda, etc. It is not necessary that only so-called God men or well-known figures have a presence. Quite a number of times one can find such a presence in ordinary people. In fact, sometimes well-known people are very troubled human beings. Their stakes in power, position or money are very high, and higher the stakes are, higher is their insecurity. They therefore frequently radiate this insecurity, which is quite unpleasant. Thought transmission. So how are these thoughts, aura, presence, radiated outside the brain and become leaky thoughts? Sage Patanjali has alluded to this in his Sutras 3-1-4. He says that doing sanyam on anything brings in great knowledge and wisdom. Patanjali defines sanyam as a combination of dhyan, concentration, dharan, keeping it in the vision field of our mind, and samadhi, complete immersion in the object or subject of focus and inquiry. When sanyam is done on anything, Patanjali says, a complete knowledge of the subject is achieved. This has been the basis of all the great discoveries and inventions of the world. Our theory of deep thought hologram and its leaky nature follows this method. We perceive reality by producing the hologram and validating it with signals from senses. With concentration mediated by ego, we try to keep that hologram for longer time in the vision field to evaluate the object or subject internally. With even greater concentration, this thought hologram acts like a laser and becomes leaky and can be transmitted to the outside world. This transmission then allows this hologram to interact with the object or subject of our focus and may interact with it in an induced fit type arrangement to give us a signal whether the information or our inference is correct or wrong. But how is the signal from the object of focus received by our brain? For objects that we can see and feel, it is quite easy because our senses guide us in doing so. But for the concepts and subjects that we do not see and are beyond our reach, what is the mechanism? The science of quantum entanglement may provide a possible answer. Knowledge perception via entanglement. Quantum entanglement, spooky action at a distance as Einstein described it, is a concept which states that photons or even particles created or generated are entangled with each other such that the knowledge of one can describe the other, no matter how far apart they are. A concentrated thought hologram that leaks out and interacts with the object or subject of perception somehow changes the property of hologram in the brain via the entanglement process. This continuous dialogue between these holograms via the entanglement brings us knowledge. The increased concentration makes it possible to increase the frequency and intensity of the holograms, and it is quite possible that this intense thought may be like a laser so that attenuation is reduced, and the induced fit type arrangement is established and maintained. Also, we discussed in part 1 that thought holograms may have wavelength signature in the near and far infrared range. The human skull and hair are also nearly transparent in this range, and hence it is quite possible that intense thought could easily be transmitted out of the brain. Besides, hair may also act like an antenna and aid in thought transmission and reception. Normally, a thought inside the brain dissipates rapidly since many new thought holograms are being produced. This is the brain shutter. However, a thought which is produced with intense concentration and for a long time may be transmitted easily as explained. The intensity of this hologram will also decide how far it can go, since the 1r2 attenuation, inverse square law, could dilute it rapidly. So how does one produce a time-stable thought hologram which can also go to long distances? The science of soliton may be able to explain it. Deep thought hologram as a soliton. Soliton is a wave which can remain stable for almost infinite time and can travel to great distances without dissipating. These waves arise because of the far from equilibrium and hence nonlinear nature of the wave phenomenon and have been observed in liquids, gases, optics, and even in space. Concentrated thought hologram is a three-dimensional wave and may follow the soliton laws. The word soliton is apparently derived from solitary wave, which being stable acts almost like a particle. Hence soliton rhymes with electron. When the conditions are right and a critical threshold is achieved, then according to catastrophe theory soliton structure is formed. It can be conjectured that a thought hologram which is an outcome of tremendous concentration for a long time can form a soliton. This hologram soliton may also interact with gravity and matter, details given in the section below. Also, the ability of this soliton to travel long distances and remain stable could be the basis of clairvoyant powers that some yogis have exhibited and to a limited extent experimentally observed. Since thought solitons are very stable, it is tempting to think that they may form stable memories and may reside in knowledge space. These memories could also be the basis of karma that is talked about in the Indian philosophy. B. Interaction with matter. Mind-matter interaction. I have been exploring and writing about these issues since 1977, though the desire to understand them started from my childhood. These ideas since 1977 were initially written in a diary form and then distilled in my first book, Nature of Human Thought, which was published in 2004 and its second edition in 2010. Recently, I have written another book exploring the mind of God, how technology guided by spirituality can produce happiness, which extends and explores mind-matter interaction issues further. The present essay puts most of the material from these books together. Most of the times scientists scoff at these conjectural ideas and term them pseudoscience. However, if in early 1800s somebody had told mankind about Einstein's relativity theory and the space-time continuum, people would have had the same reaction as today's so-called hardcore scientists have about mind-matter subjects. The black magic of today is often the science of tomorrow. The spirit of science encourages us to conjecture and our imagination to flower, and the only validity of such conjectures is the proof from the experiments. It is my firm belief that we should have an open mind about mind-matter interaction and try to figure out how it could be possible. Why study mind-matter? Curiosity is one part, but a major reason is that it may lead to a quantum jump in the evolution of mankind. As we will show in subsequent sections, mind-matter interaction is an obvious consequence of deep thought hologram production and transmission. This deep thought or Sanyam, according to Patanjali Yoga Sutras, helps us get enlightenment, gives us great happiness and joy, and leads to liberation from the cycle of birth and death. This is a major step towards the removal of pain. And the second reason is that mind-matter interaction may provide a mechanism for us to get out of the gravitational field of the Earth and could make us an intergalactic traveling civilization. I firmly believe that our origins are extraterrestrial and we long to go back to our roots in distant galaxies and planets. These other worlds were our heavens of mythology. Thought and gravity interaction. How can thought and gravity be correlated? According to Albert Einstein, gravity is nothing else but a curvature of space-time continuum and hence geometric in nature. It is my conjecture that since the structure of thought hologram is also geometric, it is possible that both gravity and thought are related at a deeper level. According to the general theory of gravitation, light bends around massive bodies. This is because massive bodies distort the space-time matrix and the shortest path for light travel is geodesic. Hence light appears to bend when it passes heavy bodies like Sun. This was one of the great triumphs of Einstein's theory of gravitation. Since gravity bends light, we can conjecture by principle of equivalence that light should also bend the space-time matrix. This is the line of thinking we will employ in our quest to find the relationship between deep human thought and gravity. Gravitation theory also shows that a combination of energy and momentum can curve spacetime matrix. Though photons are massless particles, they have energy and momentum, two important attributes for bending spacetime matrix. Hence light traveling through it should be able to change the matrix shape. However, the effect is minuscule and is extremely difficult to measure since photons have very little energy and momentum. Nevertheless, it could be possible that high-intensity light should be able to deform it. Recently, some theoretical studies have shown the effect of lasers on spacetime matrix deformation. Extrapolating on this idea, one can conjecture that laser-like thought soliton may deform the spacetime matrix just like a mass would do and produce mechanical effects. This could be the basis of mind-matter interaction. However, the mechanical effect may be very feeble to observe. Resonance magnification, nevertheless, these mechanical effects, under certain conditions, might be amplified, allowing the mind-matter interaction to become visible. This amplification could be explained by the science of resonance. All systems in the universe possess natural frequencies, and when those frequencies are reached, large-scale mechanical effects are observed. A classic example is the child on a swing. A slight push at the right time to the swing can make it go higher and higher. Similarly, certain notes played on musical instruments can shatter wine glasses. In the same manner, some of the modern bridges were destroyed when the marching steps of the soldiers on the bridge matched the natural frequency of the bridge. All these effects show that an exceedingly small force can create large mechanical changes when the natural frequencies of the system are reinforced by a small mechanical force. This is the genesis of butterfly effect, generally described in chaos theory, and is an outcome of nonlinear dynamics of the system. Thus, a deep thought hologram soliton may somehow interact with the spacetime matrix in a nonlinear way to effect large-scale mechanical changes. We still do not know how this might take place since the natural frequency of this matrix is still a mystery. This process, however, may be able to explain the movement of physical objects by thought, psychokinesis, and poltergeist phenomenon, where the presence of a troubled person brings in abrupt movements of the physical objects like stones, furniture, etc. Generally, the troubled person is capable of very strong emotional thoughts. Mahasamadhi or the final exit. It may be tempting to speculate whether thought soliton may help a person to leave his body by will. Normally death happens by accident, old age or disease. In these cases, the person has no control over the time or how the death will take place. However, there have been instances like that of Swami Vivekananda leaving his body by will. Sometimes it seems that the physical structure of brain and the body is required to reach the stage of highly nonlinear thought, and once the soliton is achieved, the body's function is over and the liberation of a being from the cycle of birth and death results. Sage Patanjali says that this stage could be achieved by Dharmmegha Samadhi, section 4. 29. I therefore feel that soliton thought wave may be responsible for Mahasamadhi of great rishis and enlightened souls, which enabled them to leave the body at will, guided by the gravity of celestial bodies like sun and stars. This is probably the most economical way energy-wise to leave the gravity of Earth. Hence it is very tempting to speculate that production of thought like soliton artificially and its interaction with spacetime matrix may provide a possible mechanism for teleportation and propulsion for overcoming gravity and help in intergalactic space travel.